There are concerns the face of the global order is changing as the war between Russia and Ukraine rages on. It's already cost more than $100 billion in damages, along with major disruptions to supply chains and the stock market. Joining us now is the political analyst and professor at Curtin University, Joe Siracusa. Joe, good morning. So how is the order changing?
Good morning, Pete. Well, the order's changing because Europe's going to have to figure out where to get its gas and oil. It's 40% dependent on Russia. And Russia has changed. Russia reminds us now that you don't measure a nation by its gross domestic product. You measure them by their hard power. So Russia's gone sort of the top of the leaderboard in terms of doing damage. President Putin has reserved the right to kill, lie, and cheat. And how do you deal with someone like that? And I think the focus, the gravity of the world has moved from the Pacific region to Eurasia. That is the lands between Europe and Asia. And we're going to have a brand new world coming up. There's going to be a realignment of nations, and we're going to find out how ineffective sanctions are. I mean, people who are issuing these sanctions, Pete, they think it's cancel culture. Because you get rid of 850 McDonald's, something's going to happen in Russia. Nothing could be further from the truth.
How's Russia a power that you're suggesting if its influence on the world stage is only going to get smaller and smaller? Because moving forward, no one's going to want to do business with Putin.
Well, you see, I'm not measuring their power in terms of their reach. I'm measuring power in terms of their hard security. In the West, particularly in Washington and places like that, we always judge nations by how much activity they had, economic activity. For example, Russia's about the same as Italy or Canada or something like this. And I don't think this contraction of Russian influence is going to disappear. I mean, Russia has gone into Ukraine and damaged the place. It's going to leave it. I think we're very close to some kind of negotiations, and it's forcing China to have a rethink about where it fits in the world. China doesn't want to roll this way. But in terms of food's going to cost more, energy is going to cost more. Part of it will be the Ukrainian war. Part of it will be people just gouging you anyway. And so people are going to have to think of new ways to do things.
Former US President Donald Trump has used the war in Ukraine to once again take aim at Joe Biden's presidency. Mr. Trump braced the cold in South Carolina to deliver a renewed pitch to Republican voters ahead of crucial elections for the GOP. He drew a large crowd at the event, which also featured 3 GOP candidates backed by the former president. He used most of his speech to take aim at President Biden's handling of Russia.
You could take the 5 worst presidents in American history and put them together, and they would not have done the damage Joe Biden has done in just 13 months. I was the only president in nearly 4 decades who did not get America into any new conflicts. Instead, I brought our troops and our wonderful children back home. I brought them back home where they belong. Under Joe Biden, America is neither feared nor respected. There has never been a time where our country has been treated the way it is right now.
Mr. Trump expressed concern the conflict could turn into World War III should the US and its allies not get tougher with President Putin. Ukrainian citizens continue to make their way to train stations and other forms of transportation in an attempt to flee their country from Russian attacks. About 2.8 million people have fled Ukraine for neighbouring countries. Anna Botting has the details.
Here we are then in Lviv train station, which has been such a crucial hub in recent days for all those people who've been trying to flee the east. It's a long process to get through here. Let me bring in the head of volunteering now, Dennis Rinsky, and just explain what's happening behind us then, Dennis.
People are trying to get the train. They have a passport control, and they come to the Polish border. The train comes to 3 cities, Peremyśl, Helm, and Hrubeszów. That's it. They are waiting for his line, and it line lasts, I think, maximum 3 hours. That's it.
Well, let's go down and see that. Dennis, thank you very much indeed down here. It's going to get very dark, actually. Many of the people here have obviously seen some terrible things. They're extremely tired as well. Some of them have come by train here. Some of them have taken buses, some private cars, but it's been a very difficult journey. Many of them are very angry, actually, at what they've seen as well, which is a bombardment of their homes. And many have been driven because they're so desperate not to leave because it's got so bad. That's why as I say, it's going to get very dark. People held down here.
Tech billionaire Elon Musk has challenged Russian President Vladimir Putin to a duel to decide the fate of Ukraine. The SpaceX founder and Tesla CEO has escalated his support of Ukraine after delivering Starlink satellite internet access to assist with widespread communication outages. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky thanked Musk and personally invited him to visit. So Musk tweeted the direct challenge to Putin, writing in a mixture of English and Russian, "I hereby challenge Vladimir Putin to single combat. Stakes are Ukraine. Do you agree to this fight?" When one of his followers questioned if Musk had thought this through, he replied, "I am absolutely serious." Musk did not provide details on how he intends the combat to take place, but dueling has been banned in most of the Western world since the 1800s.
It was supposed to be the start of new life, but it ended in death. We now know that this woman and her baby didn't make it after Russian bombs hit a maternity hospital in Mariupol. This war not sparing even the most innocent. Russia claims it's not targeting civilians, but these images of Mariupol tell a different story. A city devastated, its population besieged, with no access to water, food or medicine. But in a glimmer of hope, local officials say a convoy of 160 cars left Mariupol today in what seems to be the first successful humanitarian corridor. No such glimmer of hope in the capital, Kyiv, where the shelling is closing in. Early this morning, a residential block was hit just 7 miles from the city centre. Firefighters scrambling to rescue people from the inferno, the elderly, dazed and in shock, and those still standing, sorting through the rubble of what just hours ago were their homes.
Ukrainians, Russian troops continue to destroy our infrastructure. They continue to shell our cities in Kiev, Chernihiv, Sumy, Kharkiv, the south and the Donbass. But have no doubt, we will rebuild everything. We will renew everything. Every street, town and city, every building, every apartment of every Ukrainian.
Ukraine's capital of Kyiv has ended a 35-hour curfew after 5 people were killed in a Russian bombardment. In the country's second largest city of Kharkiv, people were forced to run for their lives as they came under fire by more than 60 airstrikes. And further east, in the port city of Mariupol, efforts to deliver aid were again blocked by Vladimir Putin's forces, but 2,000 cars were able to escape.
The terror does not end with a rescue from the rubble. This Kharkiv resident is being taken away from the bombed-out ruins of her neighborhood. But as she is moved to apparent safety, the roar of a Russian warplane overhead creates panic. This is the everyday ordeal for ordinary Ukrainians. And here the bombardment began at dawn. This residential neighborhood just outside Kiev, shaken by large explosions. The Russian invasion is inching slowly towards the capital. Moscow says it only has strategic targets in its sights. Not here, though. This is where ordinary Ukrainian families live.
A journalist who stormed the set of Russia's Channel 1 News network during its evening broadcast has been found guilty of disregarding protest legislation in a Moscow court. The journalist has been fined 30,000 rubles, which is the equivalent of about 380 Australian dollars. The woman held up a sign which read, "Stop the war, don't believe the propaganda, they're lying to you here." She's taken full responsibility for her actions.
I made this decision by myself because I don't like Russia started this invasion, and it was really terrible.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky personally thanked the 44-year-old and others in Russia who don't stop trying to deliver the truth and continue to fight against disinformation. Our top story this morning, President Joe Biden has announced an extra $1.1 billion of military aid to Ukraine after the country's president called the US to do more to help in its fight against Russia. Volodymyr Zelensky asked for more assistance in an impassioned plea to the US Congress. Mr. Biden heeded the calls, vowing to have the backs of the Ukrainian people and to do anything to put an end to the devastating war. The package will include drones, ammunition and 800 anti-aircraft systems, in addition to $18.7 billion in aid.
This new package on its own is going to provide unprecedented assistance to Ukraine. It includes 800 anti-aircraft systems to make sure the Ukrainian military can continue to stop the planes and helicopters that have been attacking their people and to defend their Ukrainian airspace.
President Zelensky expressed his gratitude for America's support during his address. He also reiterated calls to implement a no-fly zone over his country, comparing the Russian invasion to the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor.
Our country experiences the same every day, right now, at this moment, every night, for 3 weeks now. Various Ukrainian cities, Odessa and Kharkiv, Chernihiv and Sumy, Zhytomyr and Lviv, Mariupol and Dnipro. Russia has turned the Ukrainian sky into a source of death.
Japan has been hit by a powerful earthquake, causing power outages to 2 million homes. The tremor was recorded at a magnitude of 7.3 and could be felt in Miyagi, and the capital of Tokyo. It has reportedly reached 6+ on Japan's shaking intensity scale, making it too intense to stand. A tsunami warning has been issued for parts of the northeast coast for waves of up to 1 metre above normal tidal levels. The earthquake shook the same region which triggered the Fukushima nuclear disaster after a magnitude 9 tremor. That was 11 years ago now. Actor and former governor of California, Arnold Schwarzenegger, has spoken out against Russia's invasion of Ukraine, pleading for officials and troops to end the violence. In a social media video, the actor directed the message to the Russian people and its soldiers, admitting they were not being told the truth about their government. He says the Kremlin is sacrificing the lives of young soldiers, forcing them to fight in an illegal war.
You see, Ukraine did not start this war. Neither did nationalists or Nazis. Those in power in the Kremlin started this war. This is not the Russian people's war. They're also not being told the truth about the consequences of this war on Russia itself. I regret to tell you that thousands of Russian soldiers that have been killed. They have been caught between Ukrainians fighting for their homeland and the Russian leadership fighting for conquest.
And the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken last hour once again accused Russia of committing war crimes. That may well be one of them there. The US President Joe Biden and Chinese leader Xi Jinping are set to meet virtually to discuss a range of issues, including the ongoing situation in Ukraine. Antony Blinken says the president will warn Beijing of retaliation if it provides military aid to Russia. It follows claims Moscow has reached out to China for support, but the Kremlin has denied it. American officials have also accused the nation of amplifying disinformation put out by Russia to justify its invasion.